Back, Thresholds and Transits. I'm glad that you're here. My name is Megan, and this is for every survivor. Now, we recorded a video about a week ago about every time that Saturn and Neptune meet. Every time there's a conjunction, the patriarchy cracks just a little bit. And then yesterday, the day before the conjunction, and we'll get to that, the former Prince Andrew was arrested. So, for every survivor who wasn't believed, today is for you. The patriarchy is cracking. If you don't know about me, my name is Megan. I am glad that you're here. I am an astrology student, and I am building a platform. I also am just sharing the things that I'm seeing and the patterns that I'm seeing, and I love sharing it with you. You can visit my website, meganriley.eu, and find out more information about me. I have free/donation-based readings on that site, and it's on the astrology tab. If you are a woman or femme presenting, you can look at any of the other resources. There's an assessment that you can take and things that you can do. I also have intuitive-based readings that are available on that page. You can just contact Megan and schedule or send me a message. I have the donation-based readings available for a little bit more. I'm going to close that up and then reopen it later as I catch up because I'm about a month out right now. Okay. For every survivor, today is February 20th, 2026. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction is exact in about an hour and a half from now. I'm recording this at 16:02 Eastern European time. And I just want to start by speaking directly to anyone who was assaulted, harassed, abused, trafficked, groped, dismissed, sidled into silence, paid off, or simply just not believed. Anyone who was told that the person who hurt you was too important, too connected, too powerful for your truth to matter, this is for you. Yesterday, for the first time in 400 years, a member of the British royal family was arrested. His name was Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. You probably know him as Prince Andrew. He is no longer a prince. King Charles stripped his title last month. He is just Andrew now. He is 66. He was arrested on his birthday, leaving a police station in the back of a Range Rover, under investigation for sharing confidential government intelligence with Jeffrey Epstein. So we've been talking about what the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries was going to mean, and I showed you the historical pattern. And I told you that at this one, at the absolute 0 point of the zodiac, at a degree that Saturn and Neptune have not shared in thousands of years, something was going to crack. I do not predict this arrest, but I did predict exactly what it represents. And today, on the day of the conjunction, it's not exact yet. So the day is not over. Who knows what will happen today? I just want to walk you through what is actually happening, what the stars have been telling us, and more than anything, what is beginning. If you've been following this channel, you know the research. I have been building the case, but let me give you the short version because it matters. Saturn and Neptune conjoin roughly every 36 years, and every single conjunction since 1846 has coincided with a structural moment in the cracking of patriarchal power. Not adjacent to it, not related to it, but directly, specifically correlated to. 1846, the first formal suffrage petitions in the United States. 1882, the United States created its first formal mechanism to consider women's political rights. 1917, Alice Paul and 96 other suffragists were arrested at the White House for obstruction. They went on hunger strikes. They were force-fed. They used their bodies as instruments of political resistance, and they cracked male-only suffrage wide open within 3 years. That same year, the Russian monarchy fell. 1952 to 1953, the book The Second Sex arrived in English. The Kinsey Report on women's sexuality was published. Both blew open what women's experience was allowed to be. 1989, Kimberly Crenshaw published Demarginalizing the Intersection of Race and Sex, giving us the legal and theoretical framework of intersectionality. For the first time, the specific experience of Black women was named as a category that existing law had failed. The Berlin Wall fell that year. 2026. Saturn and Neptune meet at 0 degrees Aries, a degree that they have not shared in roughly 7,000 years. The last time they met here, organized patriarchy as we know it did not exist. And on the day of the exact conjunction, well, it was the day before. A prince got arrested. So the pattern holds. It has always held. And if you are someone who has been waiting, the pattern says, here is the window. To understand what happened yesterday and what it means beyond the headlines, you need to understand what Saturn and Neptune each do and what they do when they meet. Neptune rules what is hidden. It rules the submerged wound, the institutional cover-up, the truth that lives below the surface of what can be officially acknowledged. Neptune is the ocean. It holds everything. It does not lie, but it does not surface things on demand. It waits. It accumulates. It holds the pain that systems of power refuse to name. Neptune also rules survivors. It rules those whose suffering was swallowed by institutions that found it inconvenient. It rules the woman who signed an NDA and was told to disappear. It rules the victim who testified and was not believed. It rules the truth that kept being true even when no one with power would say so. Saturn rules law, consequence, time, structure, the reality check that eventually, always arrives. Saturn is the judge, not because it is righteous, but because it is patient. Saturn does not hurry. Saturn does not negotiate with denial. Saturn simply waits until the clock runs out on protection. When they conjoin, the accumulated hidden truth that Neptune has been holding gets dragged into Saturnian reality. The wound gets named by its very structures that previously refused to see it. The veil does not fall gently, it gets ripped. The Epstein files have been accumulating for decades. The documents were always there. Virginia Giuffre testified. Other women testified. The photographs were authenticated. The emails existed. And for years, Andrew sheltered behind his title, behind palace protection, behind the soft power of royalty that said, this man's reputation matters more than your truth. This conjunction ended that protection. And it happened in Aries, the sign that, through a patriarchal lens, has always meant I can do what I want because of who I am. My will supersedes consequence. My status supersedes accountability. Saturn in Aries says no, not at 0 degrees, not at the beginning of everything, not anymore. 400 years. That's how long it's been since a senior member of the British royal family was arrested. 400 years ago. The doctrine of divine right of kings was not a metaphor. It was legal and a theological fact. The monarch's authority came directly from God. To question it was heresy. To arrest a royal was, in the logic of time, to arrest God's chosen representative on earth. The last time it happened, the royal in question was executed. We are not that world anymore, but the structures that shielded Andrew for decades operated on strikingly similar logic. You do not name the prince. You do not question the palace. You accept the settlement. You sign the NDA. You disappear back into ordinary life, grateful it wasn't worse, and carry what happened alone. In silence, while he continues to appear at charity events and public functions as though nothing occurred. Virginia Giuffre did not disappear. She was a teenager when she was trafficked to Andrew. She spent years testifying, suing, speaking publicly against some of the most powerful and protected men in the world. She was mocked. She was doubted. He called her a liar. His legal team questioned her memory, her character, her credibility. Ghislaine Maxwell claimed the photograph of them together was potentially fabricated, until the Epstein files released a draft email showing Maxwell herself confirming it was real. Virginia Giuffre died by apparent suicide in 2025. She didn't see yesterday, but her siblings released a statement, and they said, "Our broken hearts have been lifted at the news that no one is above the law, not even royalty." He was never a prince. I had chills. It's 400 years of inherited protection dismantled right there. That is a Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees in Aries, doing what this transit at this degree was built to do. So here's where I'd love to go just a little bit deeper, because this is fun. Mainstream astrology looks at Saturn and conjunct Neptune in Aries and sees conflict. The fear-mongering has been intense. War, dissolution, strongmen, geopolitical chaos, war in Iran, and we're seeing all of that. But that reading in itself is a patriarchal reading. It centers the hierarchical and the combative, and it interprets the cosmos through exactly the same lens that created the structures that we are watching crack. When you look at this conjunction through our lens, through a lens that centers survivors and marginalized people and those who have been carrying the weight of unacknowledged truth, you see something a little bit different. I explored in the Cancer episode. If you begin the zodiac where the oldest astrological teaching tradition actually begins it with Cancer, the thema mundi, with the womb, you are not starting with conquest. You are starting with emergence, with what can be held and nurtured into being. From a Cancer rising whole sign perspective, 0 degrees Aries falls in the 10th house, not the first house. The 10th house, the house of public legacy, of historical record, of what structures of power do with their authority and what history will say about them. This conjunction, read from the feminine origin point of the zodiac, is asking, what is the public record going to show? What is the legacy? What does the structure of law and time and consequence ultimately do with the truth that survivors have been holding? Yesterday, the answer started to become clear. The record will show that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor shared classified intelligence with a sex trafficker. The record will show that for decades, the palace protected a man accused by multiple women. And the record will show that on the day Saturn and Neptune met at the 0 point, it stopped. The frame doesn't have to celebrate this victory. We're naming it as data. Any evidence that the pattern holds, and that the conjunction cracks when it's ready to crack, that's when Saturn meets Neptune. And what's been held in the dark by the most powerful institutions in the world cannot stay there. Let's trace something through all the conjunctions, because I think it reads how it changes how we read our history. The specific wound of patriarchal harm is not only the harm itself. It is not being believed. It is the monument after the harm. When you go into the structure that is supposed to protect you and it turns away, when the institute, the family, the employer, the law, the church, the palace says, this did not happen, or was not serious, or you are not credible, or the man you are accusing is too important. In trauma, we call this the second wound. That second wound, the wound of institutional disbelief, is what Neptune holds. It is what accumulates in the ocean of collective pain over decades between conjunctions. And then Saturn arrives. 1917, Alice Paul and the suffragists were arrested for obstruction of traffic. That was the official charge. The real charge was, you exist in public and you are demanding to be counted. They went on hunger strikes. The government force-fed them. And what happened? The institution cracked. Not because the government suddenly developed a conscience, because Saturn arrived and the cost continued denial became structurally unsustainable. Women got the vote 3 years later. 1989, Kimberly Crenshaw published the paper that gave us intersectionality. She was specifically addressing the failure of courts to see the particular harm experienced by Black women, whose discrimination did not fit neatly into either sex discrimination law or race discrimination law. She named the gap. She named the women who fell through the gap. She made the experience legally visible. The Berlin Wall fell the same year, the visible structure of division being dismantled. The Second Sex, published in France in 1949, finally reached English-speaking readers in 1953. For 4 years that book had existed, and the Anglophone world had not reckoned with it. The conjunction forced the reckoning. The foundational argument was that women had been defined by men through the male gaze inside the male-built systems as the other. The author named it as structural. She named it as constructed. She named it as something that could be undone. The Kinsey Report, also, on women's sexuality landed that same year. Both said the same thing. Women's experience is real. It's specific, and it has been systematically denied. Do you see the thread? At every conjunction, someone who has been told their experience did not fit, did not count, was not legible to the structures of power, gets structural acknowledgement, not justice necessarily, not completion, but acknowledgement. The institution turns and faces the wound. So this is what happened yesterday. Virginia Giuffre's family did not have her back. They will never have her back. But the institution that protected her abuser for decades turned and faced the truth. This is the conjunction doing its work. And if you are a survivor of anything, hear this. The pattern holds across 180 years. The window is open now. So what you've been carrying has not been acknowledged, is not invisible to the cosmos. The cosmos sees it. And even when it's been invisible to every single institution that was supposed to protect you, the cosmos sees it. I don't want to overstate what one arrest means, but Andrew has not been charged. He's only arrested and released under investigation. The broader Epstein network touched the highest corridors of power across multiple continents, and most of those men remain untouched. Like a certain president. Virginia Giuffre is dead. The women who came forward and were silenced by NDAs are still silenced. The harm that was done cannot be undone by a single day in a police station. So when I say that healing is starting, this isn't the end of anything. It's just the first cell. Healing from institutional betrayal is what most survivors of sexual violence and gender-based violence are actually dealing with. Not just the original harm, but the experience of going to the structure for help and being turned away. That healing requires a specific thing before it can begin. It requires acknowledgement. It requires the structure that participated in the denial to turn around and face the truth. That's what happened yesterday. Acknowledgement. King Charles said, "The law must take its course." Buckingham Palace, the institution that protected Andrew for decades, offered cooperation. The police arrested the man that women had been accusing for years. The structure turned and faced it. For anyone who has been in the room when the institution turned away from you, where the HR department sided with the man, where the family believed him, where the church protected the priest, where the university kept the professor, where the police told you it was a misunderstanding, when someone asked you how much you had to drink or what you were wearing, something just happened that has not happened in a very long time. The highest profile protected man in Britain, backed by centuries of royal immunity, ran out of protection. So you should not feel healed. You should not feel that things are resolved. You should feel whatever you feel. when you hear this information. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's shame, maybe it's grief, maybe it's something tentative and fragile. And I just keep having chills, like chills up and down my spine. A tiny shift in the belief that the structures are permanent and unchangeable, and there's nothing you can do. It doesn't matter. So, whatever is stirring, this is only the beginning. The conjunction isn't even perfected yet. The conjunction doesn't deliver completion, it delivers the crack. So, whatever grows through the crack is up to us. Saturn and Neptune are traveling through Aries together. They will remain in very close range through most of 2026. The conjunction does not switch off after today. It builds and it reverberates. 0 degrees Aries opposes 0 degrees Libra. It squares 0 degrees Cancer and 0 degrees Capricorn. If you have placements at 0 degrees of any of these cardinal signs, this is personal to you. Cardinal is Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. It's personal for you in a way that is impossible to ignore. You are feeling this reckoning not just in the news, but in your own life, in your relationships, in your work, in your family structures, and your sense of self. But even if you have nothing at the cardinal zeros, the conjunction is asking the same question it is asking the world. Where have you been waiting for acknowledgement that hasn't arrived? Where have you carried something true that the structure around you refused to validate? Where have you accepted someone else's version of reality because they had more power than you? This is the window when naming carries more weight than it has in decades. Not because the structures are suddenly trustworthy, they're not, but because Saturn-Neptune is in the business of making what has been submerged visible. And right now, that mechanism is running at full power. So just name it today. Name it. Just to yourself. Write something down. Say something. Put yourself in power pose. Dance. Even if no institution is caught up yet. The naming is the first act. The naming is where the crack starts. So yesterday, the day before the exact conjunction, I moved out of an apartment I've been living. Suddenly, at the last minute, without a plan, not gracefully, I had gone into an apartment that it was beautiful, and the view was beautiful, and there was significant water damage, and there was mildew and mold growing, and I have mast cell activation and chronic inflammatory response. And I woke up and I said, I cannot take another night in this place. The mold was making me sick. My dog was coughing. My body knew before my brain caught up. And then finally, I picked up my dog and I left. So this is also the conjunction. Not every crack sounds like a prince being arrested. Sometimes it's a door closing behind you at midnight. Sometimes the healing starts in the most unglamorous, inconvenient, and unplanned moments. Sometimes the structure that needs to end is just to say, I cannot spend another day here. The patriarchy cracks every 36 years when Saturn and Neptune meet. It has cracked before we were born, and it will crack again after we are gone. But we are here for this one, the one at 0 degrees, here. Virginia Griffrey held the truth, and she could not hold it anymore. Her family said he was never a prince. And this morning, for the first time in 400 years, the structure agreed. The healing has started, and I will see you in the next episode.